Yeah, thank you for making me sound very good. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. So, two prefaces. Number one, I'm not going to talk about a democracy in peril, in danger. I'm rather talking about why democracy is not a good idea in this particular context. That's number one. Number two is the reason I talk about this with this specific geographical focus is because I've been living in Jordan since June 2018, which seems not long ago, but which actually is 7 years ago. It's terrible how time flies. This is Aman, yeah. I will try, because the title was Democracy or Peace. We can't have both. So to start with the definitions of these key concepts, democracy I define normatively, so substantively, not procedurally, just free elections or anything, but rather connected to values, democratic values, which, as Susanne already mentioned, is the legacy of the European Enlightenment. I mean, this is where our values come from. And in particular, not even from people like Voltaire, but actually from the more radical wing of the Enlightenment, like Diderot, Baron d'Holbach, Mary Wollstonecraft. And these values have two foci that are very important. One is universalism. So it is the opposite of particularism, of nationalism, of patriotism, all these things. It's universalism. So things like equality or justice, these are universal values. And the other one is individualism in the sense of freedom for the individual autonomy. The other concept, peace, I use now in this context as being a very narrow definition. It's not you can make all kinds of claims about peace, but I consider it an aspect of international relations. It depends on mutual recognition, which we just now, of course, we see the drama when there is no recognition in Israel and in Gaza and the West Bank and the wider Middle East. So mutual recognition is a key to peace. From mutual recognition, preferably or hopefully develops mutual or rather international integration, which I will talk about or say something about in a moment. And I also include what is sometimes called negative peace in this concept of peace, which is, in other words, no violence, but not necessarily a peaceful, just, and free and all that society, but rather the absence of violence. Now, I don't expect everyone to be familiar with the royal lineage in Jordan, so I will briefly say something about the kings we've had in Jordan. The first was Abdullah I. He reigned for 30 years. His father had been the Sharif of the Hijaz, so he was the Sharif of Mecca and Medina, and he was first supported by the British because he instigated the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire, but then they dropped him because he had very huge ambitions for the Middle East and let the Wahhabis conquer the Hijaz and Mecca and Medina, which of course obviously was not to his liking. And Abdullah I was sent out to become a ruler of some kind, and so he became the emir of what was then called Transjordan. His son Talal only was briefly king because he spent the rest of his life in mental institutions in Istanbul. I won't go into the details there because it's very sensitive. Um, After him came his son Hussein, who actually was very close to his grandfather, Abdullah I. He had held the longest reign and is still considered like the king of Jordan. He's like the prototype of a king. His son, Abdullah II, who is king now, has slowly, he is a Western, British and US educated person. He, when he was a student in America, he was a huge fan of Star Trek. I don't know if you know Star Trek. And so they actually gave him a speaking role in a Star Trek episode. You can Google that or look it up on YouTube, where the king, then teenager and crown prince, had this, something to say in Star Trek. Now, Jordan from very early on was caught up in the whole Jordan-Palestine-Israel complex. And there were two main players as far as Jordan was concerned. One was, of course, Abdullah I, the first king, the emir who became the first king of Jordan. The other one was Amin al-Husseini, who, I don't know, I guess not everybody knows him, but he was the British had made him the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, a title that hadn't existed before and has not existed since. He, although he had been elevated by the British, he turned on them and became a loyal ally of the Axis powers in first Italy and Mussolini and then Hitler and the Nazis. And here he parades the troops and does the Hitler salute. He was the first Palestinian leader in that frame of reference, so to speak. So Palestine at the time, of course, was the British mandate of Palestine. There was no Palestine as it's been defined today, but he was the Mufti of Jerusalem, so he was the Palestinian leader, and he was a Nazi. In his meeting with Hitler and also his several meetings with Himmler, he assured them that the Arabs are the natural allies of the Nazis because they also hate the Jews and have the same goal of exterminating all Jews, not just driving them out of the British mandate, but overall just rid the world of the Jews. He even went as far as developing a plan for where to put the extermination camps in Palestine. And he was the opponent of Abdullah I because, let me first go back, because Abdullah I, he was a player. He had the ambition to become the ruler of the Levant, Bilad el-Sham, and this didn't work, of course, obviously, but he wanted to expand Transjordan, in particular expanded towards the west, across the Jordan River, and he had negotiations with the Jewish Agency, which is the forerunner of the State of Israel. He had secret meetings with Golda Meir and others, and so he was seen as a traitor because all those secret meetings he had with the Jewish Agency obviously weren't very secret in the Arab world. There's always someone who's talking, so everybody who needed to know knew that he was not anti-Jewish. Now, there's an interesting connection between al-Husseini, the Nazi Mufti, and the Muslim Brotherhood. In 1935, Abdullah al-Rahman al-Banna, the brother of Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Brotherhood, he met al-Husseini in Jerusalem, the Arab revolt in British Mandate Palestine, which was instigated by al-Husseini. The Brotherhood launched a pro-Palestine campaign with special prayers and rallies and raising of funds for the al-Husseini and his people. And then after the war, when of course al-Husseini was not well seen, at least by the Western powers, he was warmly welcomed in Cairo by the Brotherhood and by al-Banna himself, Hassan al-Banna. So he could disappear there for a while. In the Arab-Israeli war, the Brotherhood sent volunteers. Al-Banna claimed that there were 10,000, which of course is one of those, numbers that 10,000. More likely 1,500, but still, the gesture was well received. On 20th of July 1951, Mustafa Shukri Ashu killed Abdullah I of Jordan at the Al-Aqsa Mosque during Friday prayers, shot him in the head several times. Ashu was a member of the Husseini clan and was a volunteer in the 1948 attack against Israel. Abdullah's grandson, Prince Hussein, later King Hussein, the longest-serving king, was actually placed next to him and narrowly escaped death. It's one of those movie things almost, that the metal deflected a bullet. Now, what happened in 1948 to 1967 is that when I asked Palestinian acquaintances in Jordan, why was there no Palestinian state between the years of 1948 to 1967? They say, well, because Israel occupied everything. Well, no, they didn't. Actually, the West Bank was annexed by Abdullah I and became an integral part of Jordan. It was just part of Jordan, which is why the majority of Palestinian origin Jordanians already back then received Jordanian passports. And of course, the Gaza Strip was Egyptian. So this was there was no Palestine. So it was actually the Arab countries, Egypt and Jordan, that prevented a Palestinian state. The Brotherhood has been in Jordan since 1945. They split in 2015 between the Muslim Brotherhood group, who were completely preoccupied with the Israel-Palestinian question, and the Muslim Brotherhood Society, which wanted to focus on political domestic issues in Jordan, which, among other things, or maybe even primarily, was about education, which is education is one of those key areas. They had their respective political parties. The group had the Islamic Action Front, and the society had something called Zamzam, which didn't really receive many votes at all. So politically speaking, in terms of election results, actually the Muslim Brotherhood group was more politically important. Now, what happened in 2016 was that Jordan outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood group and transferred all resources, all inventories, all real estate, everything from the group to the Muslim Brotherhood Society. And too many things to talk about, but I'll leave it at that. Now, in the most recent elections, the Islamic Action Front, so the the Muslim Brotherhood group, the one that was outlawed, their party, political party, is still allowed. And they are now the largest bloc in Jordan's parliament. This is an actual poster. from the elections. We were
Wonderful.
supposed to vote for this woman, I guess. Could be a man, but we don't.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And the Islamic Action Front they have a political program where it says that they want to have Sharia law in Jordan, obviously. They don't want to have peace with Israel. They want that the Jordanian nation has to get prepared for war with Israel. And they want to have the Islamic school curriculum. Again, education, a key concern of the Brotherhood. The king, Abdullah II, he has a big modernization project going on in Jordan. And one of those is to change the curriculum, to take out anti-Semitic content, for instance. Now, obviously, the Islamic Action Front, not a fan. They were very opposed to this, and they also complained that, well, we always had the last word in these issues, why can't we have some input, and so on and so forth. So, but primarily his concern was political modernization, because Jordan is, at least nominally, a constitutional monarchy. Now, in reality, of course, it's a monarchy. Forget about the constitution, and the king has the last say. So he wanted to have a political system that is based on political parties with political programs, not the old style patrimonialism where it's patron-client politics. It's those of you who know some, at least Arabic, know about wasta. So if you have wasta, you have some connection to someone who has influence or is powerful. That's the politics in everyday life also. So you have somebody will be chosen from a big family or a tribe or a sub-tribe, and mostly he will be the candidate, and then promise that, well, yeah, you will get more water than you usually get when I'm elected. So water is, of course, a huge issue. Jordan is one of the 10 driest countries in the world. So he wanted the political programs instead of personal loyalties, which is a good thing, but it also created this platform for the Islamic Action Front. So it's a double-edged sword. Modernization on the one hand, on the other hand, giving them the platform. And earlier this year, part of the Muslim Brotherhood was uncovered to engage in terrorist activities. They already had built one rocket. They had hidden explosives all around Amman in private flats, so which is terrifying if you live there, because you don't know what is my neighbor. Does he have explosives? Do they store them there? And the story, and this is interesting for many reasons, but it turns out that the Muhabarat, which is the secret service, intelligence service in Jordan, they had under observation these Brotherhood members since 2021. So they knew exactly what they were doing, when they were doing it, with whom they were doing it. Funding came from Lebanon, from Beirut. How it arrived in Beirut, we don't know, but yeah, you can speculate. I mean, my personal opinion, Turkey, Qatar are good candidates, but we don't know. But some of them traveled to Beirut and got funds. They also got material from there. And they had their private businesses with mechanical factories, which was a very good operation to hide these activities in So what happened then was that the Muslim Brotherhood, all kinds of Muslim brotherhoods, whatever group, society, or whatever they were called, was banned, and is banned now. And the spread of brotherism is also banned. So they monitor. I mean, it's not a democracy. So there's a secret service that keeps an eye on you, and if you spread this ideology, you will go to jail. So, and mostly cases like this don't go to civil courts; they go to military tribunals. Harsher, less demand for evidence, harsher punishments. Now, the Chatham House, after this ban, wrote that given the circumstances, the royal court should resist any temptation to dissolve parliament or ban the Islamic Action Front that is still allowed. That move would not assuage rising levels of discontent towards Israel and would instead drive widespread anger underground, while also undermining Jordan's democratic experience and potentially losing its crucial international support. Now, this is very naive to say this, because we are, among friends, people you can talk with, we speculate why they still allow the Islamic Action Front, which is not even the new Muslim Brotherhood, but the really old one, and that is completely focused on Israel and they're anti-Semitic and everything. So why are they still allowed? Mm-hmm. And one theory is that it's easier to keep tab on them. You can surveil them easier if they're out in the open. I don't know. But could also be that because of the modernization project, you don't want to then, ban the biggest political party. I mean, would also not look good. So there's something called the Arab Barometer. So anyone interested in Arab politics, I recommend that you look at their data. These are the best data, even better than Pew and all those others. And it's a coalition of institutions. There, as you can see, there are two in the US, the one in Ramallah, one in Jordan, and one in Tunisia and Qatar. This is data on Jordan. These are service data. A system governed by Islamic law in which there are no political parties or elections is very suitable for Jordan. Say 28 is suitable, 29 somewhat suitable. So you can see the summary. Mm-hmm. So you see the idea of the democratization, modernization, so and so. So this would be on democracy. In other words, the majority of Jordanians don't think that democracy is a good idea in Jordan, which, oddly enough, I agree with. Because if you ask them about peace, and peace as the normalization of relations between Arab states and Israel, Jordan has a very poor record. Only 5% think that this is a good idea or a good thing. Because peace in the region, and that maybe I should have said earlier, but peace in the region, it all depends on the recognition of Israel, of Israel's right to exist. That's the key to everything. As long as you say that there will be no Israel tomorrow, we will eliminate Israel, we will get rid of the Jews and all that. As long as you have that mindset, there can obviously be no peace. I mean, there will always be violent action. To recognize that once and for all, to say that, okay, Israel exists, it actually is there, and it will be there. Only that little acknowledgement is already a huge step towards peace. So the Abraham Accords, they're creating peace in the region. All the other things we can talk about and discuss, but that's just the fact that it's more peaceful. And you can see that Sudan and Morocco actually have much better numbers, and that is because they have joined the Abraham Accords. So in other words, if politicians lead, at least part of the population will follow. So you have to have some guts and join the Abraham Accords, and then opinion will turn. That's one of the lessons from this. At least, well, yeah, I mean, not 100%, but better. Yeah. So getting to the conclusion, democratic values are not held by a majority of the electorate in Jordan. Peaceful relations with Israel are not supported by a majority of the electorate. In a procedural democracy that is not substantive, that is not values-based, peace would not prevail if Jordan was a genuine procedural democracy, like Russia, say. But this is also the case in all Arab countries. It's not just Jordan. You can look at the same data for other Arab countries, you will find the same conclusion. So at this historical stage, the choice is between democracy and peace. There is either or. You can't have both. And I think we can learn from the Muslim Brotherhood that education and long-term thinking are key in this. So rather than not taking anything from the Muslim Brotherhood, we should actually adopt their strategy to be more long-term. Okay. Thank you.